Let me tell you about ProHealthConnect.com. It's transforming healthcare payments, providing retailers a seamless process for over-the-counter and healthy benefit programs. By connecting retailers, health plans, and payment processors, ProHealth Connect creates one powerful, unified network. They empower independent grocers and pharmacies to accept health benefit cards without changing how they do business. With over 10,000 locations nationwide, helping more than 1.3 million people access the care and nutrition they need. Go to ProHealthConnect.com.
And, you know, folks, I've always been a fan of that movie Taken, right? Where his daughter, I think she's in high school at the time. She goes on a trip with her girlfriend to Paris and she ends up kidnapped and her dad ends up talking to the kidnapper on the telephone.
But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
And at that point, the kidnapper goes, "Good luck." And then he does end up finding every single one of them and follows through on his promise to kill each and every one of them. Right now, joining us, former Congressman Peter King. Congressman, how are you? How's everything going?
Everything's going fine. And, you know, I was listening to that, and that was Liam Neeson, was the guy doing the talking. And I can tell you a quick story about Liam Neeson. I got to know him a little bit when I was involved in the whole Northern Ireland issue. And I was in a reception one day in the city. He was going to be for Bill Clinton. And I was next to Liam Neeson on the receiving line. And he was going over his head. Even though he was an actor, he was very nervous that he would get his lines right. Mr. President, on behalf of all the people in Ireland, North and South, Catholic and Protestant, I want to thank you for all you've done. He kept reciting it to himself over and over. So when the president came down, he would say it. President Clinton comes down. Liam Neeson is all set to start. And President Clinton says, "Liam, I love you and Rob Roy. You were the best." And Liam Neeson never got to say a word about Northern Ireland. All Bill Clinton wanted to do was talk about his movie career. So it was really,
he threw him off his line. Wow. You know, Congressman King, there is a lot going on. And after we're done with the congressman, we'll be going right back to your telephone calls, 800-848-9222. So in the seconds before you came on, what has moved, Congressman? One, a U.S. judge has stopped President Trump's $400 million ballroom project for now. That's one. Two, a female U.S. journalist has been kidnapped by Iran-backed Hezbollah. Three, your close ally, Bruce Blakeman, I guess we'll start there, has been denied public matching funds by Democrats. That's what, a $7 million hit. One, your reaction to that first. Of course, he's going to appeal, and this is going to court, but your reaction.
Is totally biased and irresponsible. I'm not just saying this as a Republican. Newsday, which has never loved Bruce Blakeman, never loved the Republican Party, they had a full-page editorial today saying if the board went ahead and did this, how unjust it would be. Basically, this is a new system applying to the state. Bruce filled out the form. There was no provision in there for lieutenant governor. And what they're saying is if you don't put down governor and lieutenant governor, you're not entitled to anything. This is before we even had a candidate for lieutenant governor, and there was no space for him on that form. Now, Kathy Hochul is not applying for this because she has so much money she doesn't need it. The board is 4 Democrats and 3 Republicans, basically, so it was stacked against Bruce. But this, to me, is really an abuse. It's an abuse of the law. The law was set in place to make elections more equitable. And here it is, his first time out of the chute on a statewide election, and it's being used, in effect, to fix an election against Bruce. And again, if it were just me, if it was just Bruce Blakeman or Joe Cairo, that's one thing. But Newsday, which is a liberal, anti-Blakeman, anti-Republican newspaper, they did its entire editorial page today was saying how unjust this would be if it was done. Now it has been done. Bruce has to appeal it as quickly as possible. He has to win this. But again, the courts in New York have been stacked too. I mean, I remember when I was in law school, I was at Notre Dame out in the Midwest, the New York court system, especially the Court of Appeals and the Appellate Division, they were looked upon as model courts. Their rulings are being studied out there the same as the U.S. Supreme Court rulings. And now It's been so stacked so far to the left. It's just gone. It's really it's a travesty, and it's not something that you expect the average person to be following. But as a lawyer and as a person who's involved with cases in the New York court system, it has gone dramatically to the left. I talk to Judge Weinberg about this all the time.
Well, I want to ask you before I move on. In Mr. Blakeman's home county, Nassau County, he's closing the gap with incumbent Governor Kathy Hochul. What does that say to you?
Oh, no, he's definitely closing the gap. I've seen several polls come out. One has him 9 behind, the other has him 13 behind. And the average person, they say, well, that's behind. No, you're the incumbent, and you're basically a 5-year incumbent, which is what Kathy Hochul is. And Bruce is coming in new to this as far as the state is concerned. He is really narrowing the gap, and it's definitely within striking distance. And he's just started his campaign, but nothing at all. He has nowhere near the money that she has, but he's going around the state. He's being heard. And I think, listen, I've known Kathy Hochul, and again, I have nothing personally against her, so I'm not getting into that. But I would say that if you're doing an intensity poll, I don't know if anyone is going to be getting up on election morning or even in the early voting to be voting for Kathy Hochul. They may want to vote Democrat. They may want to vote against Republicans. They may want to vote against Donald Trump. But there's no really reservoir of support for Kathy Hochul herself. And we have no real personal support. And the state is doing poorly. People are really fed up with what they're seeing. Then they are going to look to the alternative. And Bruce is a very, very attractive and viable alternative. His record here in Nassau County. And the demographics in Nassau County, we were talking about race and religion, and it's not that different from the rest of the state. I mean, and there's almost 100,000 more Democrats in Nassau County than Republicans. Yet Bruce has won twice in a row. He unseated a popular Democrat, and this time he was reelected with 57% of the vote in a state which in many ways complies ethnically and geographically and racially with New York State. So Bruce has a real shot, and to deny him this money is really talking about the system being fixed and the system being rigged. And so he has to go. If I were Bruce, I would definitely, I don't have to tell him what to do, go state courts, maybe the federal courts, because there could be your federal election violations, your constitutional violations as far as equitable voting. So we'll have to see. But listen, it's really unjust. It's terrible. It's a disgrace. And Bruce has got to go all out. But it shows how worried they are that they're going to actually fix this thing against him.
Well, looking at the Wall Street Journal, the stories move there now. A judge, at least temporarily, has blocked President Trump's renovation at the ballroom at the White House. Here's what I don't understand, Congressman. Maybe you can help me with this. This is going to benefit future presidents more than it is Trump. If the man has a track record of building gorgeous buildings, et cetera, why, what great, I don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, I know what this is really about. It's about Trump derangement syndrome, but please help me out here, Congressman, on this issue.
Yeah, I think that is the ultimate reason behind it. Again, I haven't read the opinion. There could be something as far as, the requirements about as far as making changes to the White House, architectural changes, building changes, that you have to go through certain procedures that Donald Trump may not have gone through. I really don't know. But I would say that's really looking for an excuse by them to stop the president from doing what he wants to do. And that really does come down to the Trump derangement syndrome. Listen, if this were, let's say, the Kennedy family having done this, or the Obama family doing it, they would say, this shows how artistic they are. It shows Absolutely. They have a great sense of art and beauty, and they realize that this part of the White House has outlived its time, and the fact that it's not going to cost the taxpayers any money. All of that, I think, should weigh on the president's side. But the reason the lawsuit was brought, and I haven't read the opinion, but my gut reaction is that they may have found some legal technicality, but the driving force here was, again, just the opposition to, if Trump did it, it's bad.
Right. So let's go to the skit at the Inner Circle show on Saturday night. Curtis Sliwa, the Republican candidate, mucking it up, if you will, with Mamdani in a taped segment about cats. So you appear once a week with someone we both know very well, the legendary Sid Rosenberg. And I want you to listen to what Sid had to say about Mr. Sliwa, because a number of Republicans, I know you're aware of this, are talking about they want their money back from Mr. Sliwa. Listen to what Sid Rosenberg had to say.
I wish Curtis the best. I really do. I wish him the best. But there's been very few people in my life who have been more disappointing than that guy. And for you folks that still support him, that's all I'm going to say. You're also traitors and backstabbers and sellouts. And so go enjoy yourself. Go ahead. Maybe you'll be lucky enough to hear about the time he got shot by the Gaudis for the millionth time. Have a blast. Have a great time. And I'll read the ratings every Friday, and they'll basically look the same, which is Sid and Friends in the Morning is the show in this city that kicks ass.
And so, Congressman King, Mr. Sliwa in damage control went on New York One last night and basically is stating that he did nothing wrong. Assess this situation for me.
Yeah, generally I would say that it serves a purpose when Democrats and Republicans can work together, find a way to do it, even maybe in a humorous way. But the positions that Mamdani has taken are so hostile to the principles and beliefs we have, the beliefs of the city, the anti-Semitism is in there, and even the statements made by his wife. And I know the wife is someone separate, but having said that, the liberal media was going on for months because Justice Alito's wife flew the flag upside down when President Trump lost the election. And this is nothing compared to what Mamdani's wife has said, also what he said about the global intifada, what he said about the police, what he said about law enforcement generally. So to me, I would have no problem sitting down in a business meeting with Mayor Mamdani. In fact, I saw him on St. Patrick's morning at the Cardinals of the Archbishop's breakfast or brunch that he had. I just said hello to him briefly. I wasn't going to be posing for pictures or anything. But, I mean, to me, to get involved in this type of comic situation, to me, is accepting his beliefs as being within the political mainstream. So it's not just disagreeing. That's what politics and government is all about, a clash of ideas. But when ideas are so far out, like, for instance, I wouldn't have been sitting down with George Wallace during the 1960s, or,
right.
He was clearly a racist. And to me, this is Samuel Mamdani. His views are so beyond what I think are, the bounds of decency, that to be engaged in a joking situation is to give him a credibility and a respectability that they don't deserve. If they want to have a formal type meeting or even a debate, that's one thing. But as far as yucking it up at the interstate, which I'm never that crazy about those things anyway, but in this case, this is different from anything else. I can't imagine any other candidate or mayor or person over the years in New York that would have fit into the category that Mamdani is in now. And again, he is the mayor. He was elected. I don't say he was illegally elected or there were phony votes. He won it fair and square on his terms. But also Curtis realizing that he could have been the difference. Not just that the votes that he got, and if they had gone to Cuomo, would have made it almost even. The constant attacks on Cuomo and not attacking Mamdani also added up to a couple of points. It could have. So no, Curtis is definitely a negative factor. Also, listen, I'm a big boy. But I also know, and with John Catsimatidis, what was done for Curtis over the years. I mean, if any guy was helped along.
I don't, you know what, Congressman King? I don't even go into those things of what Mr. Catsimatidis has done for him on a personal level. I don't even mention it. I've never mentioned it once. You talk about biting the hand that's feeding you. It is the sheer definition of that.
And also all of the free coverage he got. All the free coverage he got on WABC, everything.
And he was whining like a little girl, complaining.
Right. So that's it. And also, Sid, listen, I used to disagree with Curtis on a lot of things, and I'd be on with Sid, and Sid would be defending Curtis. Curtis always got defended, which to me was fine, but I'm just saying, then him to turn on Sid the way he did, and turn on John Catsimatidis and WABC, which basically gave him the lifeline to the people the last few years. I'm not even talking about financially. I'm talking about giving him that forum that he had. And he was basically allowed to say what he wanted to do, when he wanted to do it. He would pop in on every show. He'd walk in on people's shows. And he had, he was given free reign at WABC. I thought he lived there. Well, every time I come in, he'd be sleeping there or eating there, or he'd be, he was there. He couldn't get away from Curtis. And so for him to react this way is really bad for him.
It is. And Congressman, I want to thank you for joining us. As always, I look forward to chatting with you again soon. And
happy and holy Easter, and pass over to all our friends in the
absolutely. Congressman King, thank you. Regards to your family. It is time for a break.
Early birds always rise to the occasion for summer vacation planning because early gets you closer to the action. So don't be late. Book your next vacation early on Vrbo and save over $120. Rise and shine. Average savings $141. Select homes only.